Well, hello there. How are you? I've been thinking about you, and here we are back doing Fearne's Fantasy, Choosing Your Own Path. This is Fearne Calloway from Critical Role, and here is our first page that we ever did, and this is when her grandma wakes her up and offers her whiskey and milk, or she can go ask where Mr. is, which we still don't know who Mr. is. Or she can go out and play with her, or stay inside and play with her taxidermied creatures. And we all put it up for a vote. And you all decided that, yeah, she needs to figure out who these taxidermied creatures are. So that was our first video. And then we moved on after your vote, and we went to the page where she figures out who her taxidermied creatures are. And many of you are coloring along with me, and this is so much fun to see your pages. So here we were given a couple of choices. We could go and stay here and play with Peepers, or we could go outside and search for friends. And Peepers is that crazy looking rabbit who has eyes in his ears. Just kind of creepy to color. And of course, I make Fearne all kinds of colors, and I don't stick to one palette. And mostly, I've tried all kinds of different mediums, which you have seen in the previous two videos. So then, here we are. We go outside in search of friends. And here, Fearne Calloway has come upon some woods. She's on a mountain. She's on a hill. Or near some hills. And I decided this time I would try, I do have the entire background done in acrylic. Acrylic markers go really fast. But here I'm speeded up, and I'm going to try some ink tints. In the past couple of pages, I've used pretty much pure acrylics for everything. And I wanted to maybe make some of this look a little bit more delicate. Or, shaded, not just flat coloring. So I did color a lot of it in acrylics to just leave myself with a more manageable amount to add some pizzazz to with ink tints. And this is a nice technique for when you're looking at a page, you're like, oh gosh, it's a lot of work. Well, use acrylic markers for some of it, for some of the stuff that you don't really need to be so delicate about, like trees and some of the foliage and the ground. That's boring stuff to do with ink tints. Use acrylic markers. They go over everything. You can even go over elements you don't want to color. They're great for the background. I used it there for the background for the sky. And here, and then I'm putting in some ink tints, and I'm activating with water, which I know some of you activate with Colorless Blender, but I don't think I have a full one of those. So I'm using water. Sorry, I'm off camera a little bit here. And it's adding just a little bit of, I don't know, ink tints is a more refined artistic medium, and it just has a lot more flexibility, and it's pretty. But if you put it mixed in with the acrylics, it really brings the acrylics up a notch, I think. So it doesn't look just like it was colored with acrylic markers. So here we are activating it, and this goes pretty fast. Not as fast as it does here in double speed, but it does go pretty fast. And I do love coloring in the ink tints and then going over a whole patch of it with water, because it reminds me of those paint with water books. Those are so much fun. It's pretty much a paint with water. And look at that. I really like that bright green. So I decided to go into the bushes in the back with a variety of greens, and this is a very dark green I'm using for shadows. And I'll show you here how I use a variety of ink tints all at once. I have finally, I think, cracked the code on how I want to use ink tints, and I like to just put it all in, shade and everything, and then mix it there on the paper if I can, if the paper can handle it. So I'm using this to put in some shade and add some darkness here and there where I know I'm going to want to shadow. This kind of saves me from having to shadow with pencils on top later. Anything that's faster for me, and that keeps me from having to use too much pencil, which is a very slow medium for me. So this is just putting shadow in with it's kind of a brownish green, just in the places where I know shadows would be beneficial or would be naturally falling, to differentiate these layers of bushes. And I didn't do these in acrylics because I thought it wouldn't be too hard to do them in Inktense, and I think the bushes would benefit from being in Inktense where I could really shade and make them look a little more realistic. So here I've got a lighter green, it's got a little bit more yellow in it. It's still in the neutral, natural family of greens, and I'm putting that on top. And then, I had to get some brighter green out, and that's going right on top of the acrylic, which Inktense can. And then here we are, some more brown green. There's browns. I didn't want these bushes too green. They didn't feel like to me they would be too green. So I'm using brown greens and green browns, and I'm just making it lighter as it goes towards the tips. And then the tips I'm making very bright. Now I finished all the coloring off camera here, and I'm going to do my paint with water, which is my favorite part. When I'm going from light into dark, I tend to just go with it. When I want to go dark into light, if I end up painting dark into light, I try to clean my brush because I don't want to lose the darks. So here I started getting smarter and going light. Dark spread. I had to clean my brush into dark. So I go in with a clean brush here. But I'm not going to go back to light with that brush. I dipped it in water again. I forgot. There I go. And I'm just putting light into dark, and I'm dipping into water and then dabbing it onto a paper towel. And here I'm getting smart and doing all the dark, and then dip it in to clean it before I do the light. Otherwise, it just turns into kind of a muddy mess. You want to make sure that your light is staying light. And I'm really liking the colors there. It's a brown, green, and it looks very painterly, which is kind of how I think Inktense shines. Getting a real smooth blend of Inktense is hard, but you can be done, but it's a lot of work, and you often have to use pencil on top. But if you do it if you want like a painterly look, it's super easy. I'm not sure why my camera keeps focusing in and out, but I'm really glad I put that dash of bright green on there. I think that's pretty cool. And that's basically what Inktense is. So I'm going to do the rest of that off camera, and here it is. Doesn't that look good now that it's all dried? I let it dry. I don't think I need to do anything else to that. I did all the bushes with Inktense. I think that really elevates the acrylic, and now I'm going to work on her. Now I lost some footage. I did her whole face on camera, and I lost it. So I'm going to show you how I did the face, and I'm going to do it on her shoulders and chest area. Okay, here we go. So I wanted this to be really drastic. I wanted her skin to be yellowish, but I wanted those beautiful hot pinks. Is it a hot pink? Kind of like a magenta. And so I realized that I could do that with Inktense, but it's not smooth. So I will go over it with pencils to make sure that the movement from one color to another is smooth, because as you can see on her face, it's still pretty patchy. So I put the yellow Inktense down, a real light yellow. And then I'm going in here with some of that dark magenta. And I am experimenting. Like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I did this for the first time on her face. So this is my second time doing this, having such radical color changes with Inktense. But I figured, well, let's do it. Okay. So she's magenta. I like the idea of her skin having pink, of her shadows being in the shadow areas. She's pink. And I especially like the idea of those freckly shoulders being pink. I think that's kind of fun. So I'm just using a lighter magenta, purpley magenta here. So I started with a dark one along the clothing line in the very dark, and then went to a lighter, and then here's a lighter, and this one is more pink. In fact, it's kind of a peachy pink. but it's kind of the color I really wanted her skin to be, and I wanted those freckles to pop through that color. Now, Inktense does not look the same when it's first put down versus when you activate it. So you kind of have to know your Inktense, because that looks weird. But I think I know what it's going to look like when it's activated. So I'm going to activate the yellow and then go into the pink and then clean my brush. Yellow, into pink, clean my brush. Yellow, into pink, clean my brush, because I want that yellow to stay yellow. I don't want the yellow to become pink. And I'm liking that. I'm liking that a lot. So here we go, yellow into the pink. Yep, and then before I go again, I'm going to have to clean my brush. So just remember, cleaning your brush is really important to keep from getting a muddy mess. You want to blend the edges, sure, but you also want the colors to be separate. You don't want everything to turn to brown, which, just speaking for a friend. No, I've actually done that so many times. And this yellow is really light, but I know that this time I'm going to use pencils on top to brighten the colors, to blend them better. And so I'm not minding that it's kind of a harsh transition, or that there's such a difference between the colors that they don't, they're not blending, because they will blend when I put the pencils on top. And here I'm trying to keep the pinks and the peaches in with the pinks and the peaches and not going into the yellow. So if you've never used Inktense, the amount of water you use really depends on the paper. I mean, Inktense can blend with just a damp brush. It blends more with a very wet brush. This paper can handle a lot of water. And there we go. See, that's a base. And then I just need to let this dry before I work on it anymore. Yeah, so this paper can handle a lot of water. And here's the pencils I'm using. I'm using some gold fiber Faber-Castell there, and then some polychromo. So it's all Faber-Castell products, which are my favorite. Oh, nope, there's some Prismacolors in there too. I just went through a couple of cases to pick the colors I want. I figured Prismacolors would go over the Inktense pretty well. Actually, the Prismacolors I wasn't as crazy about. I think next time I will use only Faber-Castell products on this paper. I had a hard time getting them to get any pigment out. I think it's just the paper. But here I'm trying to just blend in the transitions. So as I was saying, it really depends on the paper how much water you can use. But Inktense doesn't really benefit that much from using a lot of water, like paint. Some watercolor paints, you really do need to use watercolor. Granulating paints need a lot of water. I mean, watercolor paints need water to move and spread, and granulating paints need even more. But Inktense, a damp brush will just do it. So if you've got paper that doesn't do well with water, like Amazon paper or Lulu Mayo, lots of papers don't do well with water. Inktense is probably the one water-soluble medium that needs the least amount of water to move and spread and dissolve. So here I'm adding just some more highlights, and I'm going to pink up her pinks and yellow up her yellows. And I decided this pink was beautiful when I started to use it on the lips, but didn't like it there. But I thought, hey, her horns would be beautiful in this pink. So I'm going over everything on the horns with this, making this her base color. But it is based in Inktense, so I don't have to use as much pencil. And then I decided, yeah, let's get fancy with the horns, and let's put some shading in. And this is a Prismacolor darker magenta, probably that Kaput one. I like that one a lot. And then I have to do some blending. And I'm blending with the pencils themselves, because this paper really can take it. It's great paper, by the way. And I thought I'd try using the white, because some people blend with a white pencil, and I thought it would work here because I know the white leaves a white cast on it, but that's okay for the middle of these horns, because the light would be hitting it there on that bump. So why not? But then I felt I had to go back in with pink because the white whitened it too much. But I like the way that's looking. I was trying to figure out, would that be dark or would that be light? I think that's the biggest question for most colorists, is like, is this a dark area, a light area, a neutral area? And I like to just think, where would the light hit it? The light would probably be shining on top of her horns, but it might get a little bit on the inside of that twist. I wanted to give her ears some definition, and I figured, well, for some reason the inside of her ears are yellow and glowing, but the rest of it, where does the light hit? And I think I have to think about it, like wherever the light isn't hitting as much is going to be darker, and wherever the light is hitting will be lighter. So that's what I'm trying to do, is make these transitions from dark to light a little bit more believable. And I think we're getting there. I tried a more yellower yellow here, and I really liked that mixed with the magenta of the ink tints. And they're not mixing because ink tints is permanent once it dries on paper. If it's on paper and it dries, it doesn't move again. So this is just going on top of the ink tints. So it's not real heavy layers, which is why I think I'm liking the gold Faubers better. It lets the ink tints shine through. So I'm just putting light layers. I'm not using any heavy handedness because I don't want to cover. And I have to be really careful with the Prismas because they do cover. But I don't want to cover the ink tints. I want to augment the ink tints and accent the colors. Here I am pretty much obliterating the ink tints with that dark, but I figured that was okay for the edge of her ears to give her some definition on her ears. And then I decided to use that around to make some shadows. And I thought that would help out her ears a little bit. Now her hair is acrylic. Those are two different acrylic markers I used. And I do, all the while I'm doing this, I am thinking about, do I want to add more to her hair? I mean, I was kind of messy with it. And then I'm just adding more pink in here. It's just adding layers until you get it to a way you like it. And only you know that. There's no right or wrong here at all. It's just, do you like it? So I recently did a page where I showed my buddy and I was like, is it done? Because I like it, but should I do more? And anytime you're saying should to yourself, just stop. Just stop saying should. Just back up, take a picture of it, which I like to do, sleep on it, and then look at it. Look at it the next day or the one after that. It's surprising how often when we look at our artwork later, we have a little bit more clarity on it. We're not so close to it. This has happened to me, and I've heard many other colorists say that when they've gone back to go look at it, it wasn't as bad as they remembered it being. And maybe it only needs a little bit here and there and you're done. Or, as is the case with the one I just recently finished and sent to my buddy, it was done. I'm sure it could have used some more finessing, but I was fine with it and I was done and I wanted to move on to something else. So that's what I did. I moved on to something else and I was happy to call that one a done page. So as you see, I'm just putting more pencil on top of the ink tints. I'm kind of liking that glow. Yeah, I gave a thumbs up. So I finished her face and her chest, and I'm really liking the way it looks. I think the glow is really nice. I did finish the horns too. So at this point, I was done with pencils. That's about as much. That took a while. That took as long as the whole rest of the background took. So I decided that was enough. I can go back to my beloved acrylics again. And here I'm just I have a bag or a bin full of acrylics that I don't care for, like the Arctics and others. This Arctics one is really having problems with its nib. Just ones where the nibs fray or problems happen, but the ink inside is still okay. This one I ended up throwing away. I just thought it was awful. And I changed to the acrylograph from Archer and Olive. I get these sometimes in my subscription boxes. They're not easy pens to use, and I actually put them away. But then one day I was like, they're actually pretty colors. I could probably color with them, once in a while and not get too mad at them. So this is a reflective purple. So I'm using acrylics now to finish out the page since I feel like I've done enough pencil work to make the whole page look a little bit more elevated than what it was. I decided that I didn't like the pink sleeves on her dress leading to pink gloves, and I thought I'd make her gloves purple. I also didn't like this option either once I got it done, but now it's a dark purple, and I was like, all right, it's just staying that way. I mean, I could go back over it with some more acrylic, but at some point, I'm good with it. You know, my pages don't have to be perfect. Just bring me joy doing them. And to keep messing with these gloves would not bring me any joy. So she has dark purple metallic gloves. I do like the way that it all shines, though. Then I grabbed, now this new top, I don't know how to say it. That's actually a decent marker. They're cheap, and if you're ever looking for cheap acrylics, I like these a lot. And I've used a lot of them until they were done, so I would buy them again. I think they're very opaque. They're very similar to the Graby. I think they're more opaque than the Ohuhus, but they're just super opaque and nice to use. They've got a real small nib, so sometimes I go to a bigger nib for bigger spaces, but these are nice. As for her dress, I have not really done... I'm not good at clothes. And so the dresses I do for her are really kind of elementary. I just take acrylic markers and do different patterns on them, but not patterns that make a lot of sense. So, yeah, I wouldn't write home about the way I do clothes. Basically, they're sort of like, let's just get the clothes done so we can work on the rest of the page. So that's what I'm doing here is I'm finishing up her clothes, and I'm going to finish this entire dress. I do like the purple and pink. I do like the flash of orange. Pink and orange are two of my favorite colors together. I used to love Prada and Prada's commercials because they're really into pink and orange, and I thought they did it really well. I like their color choices. So I finished all of that acrylic, and now I'm going to use my beloved Languo gel markers to go over some lines. Now I'm not taking lines out, I'm changing their color. This page is so detailed that I thought the lines really needed to be there, but they didn't need to be black. So I'm going over them with, this is one of my favorite colors of all the Languo gel pens. I use it for everything, is this like dark brownish red. And I'm going over the black lines just to make it look softer, I guess, not so harsh, not so much like a drawing. I really like doing this. I like taking lines out too, but I tend to err on the side of taking too many out, and then the artwork looks a little blurry to me, and that's not the effect I usually go for. I like really bold colors and very, comic book style graphic art. I never have been one to do things too natural. So all of my colorings are usually really colorful and very graphic. So she's getting a treatment on all of her lines with this color of red. It looks like I've done some of that already off camera, and I will finish off camera. And then we'll move on to the creature that she stumbled on. Now, in this story, she's gone clear into the magical marshland and deep into the woods, and she runs across this creature. And it isn't explained who he is. There he is. I have finished him in acrylics as well. It's all acrylic. And the choice now is for us, do we go around this situation, which means going way out of our way and going over some mountains. I really like the way the pencil looks with the acrylics. I think that's neat. I'm going to do that more. Or do we wild shape into a quokka, one of those Australian little creatures, and try to sneak up on them? So what's your vote? Vote in the comments below if we we wild shape into a quokka and sneak up on him, or B, we go through the mountains and around him. So let me know. You can vote here and on the Instagram post, but please just vote in one place. I will tally them both. let's see, today is the 23rd of November. I'll put it up for, 7 days. So let's say December 1st is the cutoff, and December 1st I'll announce the win. So please, in the comments below, pick A or B, whether we wild shape into a quokka and sneak up, or B, we go all the way around the mountains to escape him. And if you have done this page as well, I'd love to see it. Please, when you post it on Instagram, tag me in it so that I can see it, because I know some of you are coloring along with me, and I'd love to see the colors that you made, Fearne and the trees and everything else, that wispy thing that's flying around. And I hope you have a great day of coloring and a peaceful evening. All right, I love you. Bye-bye.